This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. It's very important to remember that every single story in the news is to manipulate you. It's not to inform you, it's to manipulate you. There are stories out there that they make circulate, and people out there see these stories and they don't realize that they're being programmed by these stories into eventually accepting what the government is going to come in with. And in this case, it's the digital ID, problem, reaction, solution. So no matter where you're based listening to this video, you have probably come across a story like this recently about somebody online being scammed. Now you might say, well, that's been happening for a long period of time. Yeah, but they're upping the ante now, because if you think about what they're doing and you pay attention to what they're doing, they are getting people conditioned for the digital ID. So you probably have heard and seen a lot of these stories that are going around about online romance scams. There's one in almost every town. Online romance scam netted $1.7 million from 2 dozen victims. Romance scammers are using AI, how to spot them, warning people that they're getting tricked online by people pretending to be people that they're not, in order to lure money or to get them involved in a romance that's not real. This is all to bring about the digital identity. Again, you won't be able to buy online. You won't be able to sell online. You won't be able to make a comment on a YouTube video online. You won't be able to upload to YouTube online. You won't be able to upload to Facebook. You won't be able to email. You won't be able to do anything online without the digital ID. The reason the internet has been free for all of these years, and the reason that the internet has become a convenience for you, is to condition you into being dependent on the internet, needing the internet, not being able to imagine life without the internet, so that eventually you comply to the digital ID, which ultimately I have always talked about being the mark of the beast, something that is embedded in your genetic code, that you will have to have a certain status of a magic potion, because again, it's not going to really be able to work without having a certain substance inside of your body that will enable your body to be online, to connect to the internet of bodies. And you will not be able to do any of the things that you normally do now, like maybe, for example, make multiple YouTube channels, wink, wink. Or, for example, comment on the internet without being held accounted for, without the digital ID. And you're going to hear more stories like this one that I'm about to play for you, which is one of the funnier ones that I've seen. That's why I'm putting this specific one in here, about a woman who is convinced that she's met Keanu Reeves online and she's sending him gift cards, and she's convinced still that it's still the real Keanu Reeves. This is so people out there start garnering sympathy for complete brain dead people into why we need a digital ID, because old people are getting duped out of their homes, out of their life savings, because people are making up their names. They're using AI. This is part of the reason as well that you're seeing all of this AI deep fakes going on and being allowed to go on, is so that ultimately they could say, for the safety of everyone, having a digital ID will protect you, make your life easier. You won't be able to be tricked. And anybody who writes hate online, anybody who posts on platforms like YouTube that has content that's anti-government or anti-this will be held accountable. That's ultimately what it leads to. Remember, the mark of the beast, you will not be able to buy or sell without having the mark of the beast. The internet, www in Hebrew, 666. Okay? The internet of bodies. This is what we're headed towards. This story I'll play for you is one, again, they're popping up everywhere, because ultimately when you watch the news and you watch these stories, you need to think about what they're trying to tell you. What are they trying to tell me? Are they just trying to tell you because they want to inform you about some woman who is so clueless that she thinks Keanu Reeves is talking to her online, and that Keanu Reeves needs her to send gift cards to her? What's he worth? $100 million? And she needs to say, oh yes, and he's in love with her, and they're, she's 70 years old. I mean, everyone who sees it is like, wow. And of course, I'm sure this is the same person who would line up and get a magic potion over at their local pharmacy today if you asked them to. But look at this story, okay? It's sad enough that people actually believe this, but what's even sadder is that people don't see through these stories of what they're really trying to do. Look.
They're called romance or imposter scams. Online fraudsters are stealing more than $1 billion a year from people they meet online.
Yeah, whenever this topic comes up, people always ask who could fall for something like this. Tonight, your investigator, Brian Moss, introduces us to one apparent victim, a woman in Colorado, who's out thousands of dollars. She believes she's in a relationship with actor Keanu Reeves. Brian is sharing her story tonight as a warning that plenty of people, even those you wouldn't expect, do fall for these scams.
It's the Matrix.
To hear the woman tell it,
I'm a fan.
Hollywood movie star Keanu Reeves came into her life in 2022.
Whoa.
And is still romancing her.
He's always very romantic, flirtatious, being very, very nice about it.
She is 65, a married mother of 2, and while there are numerous signs she is being victimized by a scammer, she is convinced otherwise.
Nobody else can talk to me while they're sitting at a table during an awards celebration, getting an award and texting me. This is the real Keanu Reeves.
What can I show you to convince you that you've been scammed?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
She believes she met the actor through Facebook, which led to online conversations and text messages she shared with us. Eventually, she was asked to buy gift cards for him, which she did. You really think Keanu Reeves spends his time talking to a 65-year-old woman trying to shake her down for $50 gift cards?
It's part of what he does.
She says she became convinced she was talking to the star when he sent her this supposed picture of his driver's license. We found the exact same image circulating on the internet. The apparent scammer asked her to install a Cash App and said he would teach her how to use it. There have been promises of trips to Paris, lavish shopping trips, and marriage. Of course, none of that has happened. She gave him her bank account and personal information and estimates she's handed over about $5,000. She shared a message from the contact, pressuring her to get him more gift cards.
I need this gift card, please. I want to call my mom.
What makes you so sure that that voice was the voice of Keanu Reeves?
I think from hearing it on TV.
We were shown video of scammers located in West Africa communicating with American victims in the United States using artificial intelligence enhanced video technology. And so it appeared to the victim in the United States that they were speaking to another American citizen.
Aaron Rao with the U.S. Justice Department says romance scams are likely undercounted due to most victims being embarrassed by what they fell for.
If you are not perhaps as careful or as accustomed to dealing with technology, then you may find yourself as a potential target.
The federal government estimates online romance scams cost Americans at least $1 billion every year. In Colorado last year, nearly 14,000 imposter scams were reported to the Federal Trade Commission. As for the Keanu Reeves scam, it's been going around for years and has been the subject of numerous media reports. The actor's representatives have said repeatedly, Keanu Reeves has no social media accounts. Keanu Reeves, he has no social media. He's not on Facebook.
He was on my Facebook.
There's absolutely nothing I can do to convince you you're being scammed?
Maybe Keanu Reeves should walk in the door and tell me that he didn't do this.
I'm Brian Moss, covering Colorado First.
Now, within the last week, the real Keanu Reeves appeared with his girlfriend in California at a gala. We shared that with this woman who said she still believes that relationship is made up.
The CBS News investigation into the troubling world of online romance scams continues tomorrow morning on CBS Mornings with a daughter's crusade to prevent others from falling victim to the scam that ended tragically for her mother. You can watch CBS Mornings starting at 7 a.m.
And again, people will hear me cover a story like this, and they can't grasp what I'm saying. They can't grasp it because they only could see surface level on these news stories because they don't understand how they've manipulated people's behavior for the last 70 years, 75 years with the television. They've manipulated people's behaviors beforehand using the newspaper. And now they have so much control with technology over people's minds that they could convince them that all these stories in local affiliate markets are going on where everybody's getting duped online. Of course, then think about the other stories out there about hate and what people can say online and how we need more censorship online. It all comes together from all these different angles, and they tie it up with a bow. And that bow is ultimately your enslavement, which is the digital ID. That digital ID monitors every movement you make in life and every single thing you do on the internet. That is when people like me and you will not be able to communicate anymore with each other on this beast system, so to speak. So you heard the woman, right? And people out there see that, and some people laugh, and other people see it, and they feel sympathy for the woman. But ultimately, they don't understand what they're trying to tell you, right? The story, 65-year-old woman appears to be the latest victim of a widespread romance scam known as the Keanu Reeves scam. To date, the Keanu Reeves imposter has milked her out of $5,000, but she remains convinced she's romantically involved with the superstar actor. He's very romantic, he's flirtatious, although there are numerous indicators she's communicating with an imposter. The woman is undeterred, as you saw in that clip, right? So now this is what they're going to convince people of. Okay, this ties into all the stuff I've talked about with the threats online of people hacking your identity, the threats online of you getting your bank account hacked, all these things that they've constantly just been planting seeds for. It continues to move with stories like this towards the digital ID for full protection. Nobody can, but ultimately what's ironic about it, if you're out there and you're thinking to yourself, well, that sounds like it's a better idea anyway. I don't want to get scammed by somebody. I don't want to get hacked by somebody, because people believe these stories. They don't realize that there's nothing more scripted and fake than the news, period. And I've said this before about conservatives. They look at the news like CNN is fake news, yet they believe stories like this. They only call fake news out on stories about their hero, Donald Trump, or anything about the Republican Party. Okay? All of it is manufactured. All of it. This is how they herd emotions. This is how they get you to comply with ultimately what they want. Digital enslavement. So these stories exist for that purpose. And if somebody's out there and they're going, well, I think it might be beneficial for all of us, they don't understand that ultimately the other stories that are out there surrounding this is them having the ability to hack humans. Hack humans. The only way they can hack humans is with a digital identity, which would be implanted inside of you. This is out of their own mouths about hacking humans.
Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Over. Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized. Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go
the
to the
vaccine
test, of course.
will help us, of course. It will make things, you know, more manageable.
Surveillance, people could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us. The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example, it's you who are changed. Yeah, and of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. Of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications. And we have to be prepared for it, and that's what we want to do in Davos next year. So this forced industrial revolution is, it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example, it's you who are changed.
A really big thing is hacking human beings. To hack human beings, you need a lot of biological knowledge, a lot of computing power, and especially a lot of data. If you have enough data about me, and enough computing power and biological knowledge, you can hack my body, my brain, my life. You can reach a point when you know me better than I know myself. And once you reach that point, and we are very close to that point, then democracy, the free market as we have, and actually all political systems, also authoritarian regimes, we have no idea what happens once you pass that point. Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough. And nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. Data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life 4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed in the basic rules of the game of life. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life, after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds, science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm. So after 4 billion years of organic life shaped by natural selection, we are entering the era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. So does the data about my DNA, my brain, my body, my life, does it belong to me or to some corporation or to the government or perhaps to the human collective?
How many times have we had to hear these people talk about ultimately the goal is to be able to hack human beings? Okay, well, how do you think they're going to hack a human being without having technology inside of you? I mean, in some senses, they've already hacked human beings. We know there's one test run that was just done where people literally allowed their genetic code to be hacked, but they're hacking human beings by convincing them of a fictional reality, fictional stories, fictional world. This is what they want you to believe, that all this stuff is going on, so ultimately they could trick you and convince you into doing what they want, into complying what they want. And again, I said earlier in the video, people don't understand how when the internet first came out, people were like, I'm not interested in that. People would rather spend time with their family outside, etc. Now you can't go anywhere without seeing somebody on their phone, right? We all know that. Some of you are guilty of it. I'm personally not guilty of that with my phone, but I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm on the internet. I'm uploading this on the internet. I use the internet. Do I not? Yes, I do. Not going to lie about it. So don't kid yourself and act like you're not one of the people out there, okay? We've all been conditioned into that, right? And we need to decondition ourselves from being dependent on the internet. It's very crucial in being able to survive what's coming psychologically. Because when they come in and they tell you that you're not going to be able to buy or sell or do anything on the internet without a digital ID, people are just going to, without blinking, they're going to give into this. And they're going to go, whatever, what's the big deal? I shop on PayPal. I have all my accounts on the internet, my bank online. What's the difference if I have my picture on there? They don't realize that first with the digital ID, it starts that way. But ultimately, the digital ID ends up being biometrical, which means it's inside of you. Okay, you've heard all this stuff about biometrics, and you probably have rolled your eyes and be like, I don't know what that is. That sounds boring. Okay, biometrics is what you've been conditioned with over the last 50 years or so, seeing movies like Minority Report, where these people are walking up and they're able to open up a door using their eyeball, using their retina, right? Or you've seen with your credit card, you've been getting conditioned into scanning with your thumb or opening your phone, right? Your Apple phone, your Samsung phone. Oh, give your thumbprint. And people out there are like, oh, okay, what's the big deal? At first, they were like, I don't want to do this to get into my phone. Then they heard about 50 stories about how people were losing their phones and people were hacking their phones and then getting their bank accounts. So like, I guess it's not a big deal to use my thumb. Now, 2 months, 2 years later, everybody out there does it, right? Next thing you know, you see Google. Oh, now you need a passcode. They're conditioning, and they've been conditioning you into giving more and more and more until ultimately, after more and more psyops like this and more false flags occur, you give in into getting something in you when they tell you, look, it's not going to be this crazy thing like putting a chip in your brain. Okay, it's ultimately just going to be embedded inside of you forever. And ultimately, when it's embedded in you forever, you could walk in and out of stores. You don't have to worry about being hacked. You don't have to worry about somebody stealing your identity or going into your bank account. They'll tell you it'll be safe. But what they won't tell you is what you heard earlier, that the thing they're going to hack is you. You don't have to worry about you personally having some boogeyman in Russia hack into your bank account, because the government will be hacking into your mind. And people have a tough time grasping this because it sounds like a sci-fi movie, right? Which is why they've shown you this stuff throughout the years in movies, because you don't think that it's possible. But then when it comes out, you'll still say, well, it's not like Total Recall, or it's not like some of these other movies out there that we've seen over the years with, having something digitally implanted in you, or, living in a different alternate reality like a metaverse. It's not like that, because the more you become desensitized to it over time, you accept it, you adopt to it. And that's what they're training you to do with these stories. They're training you and preparing you and fearing you and doing all this. So the government's going to come in. What do you think the story is about ultimately? The government coming in, using dozens of other stories that we've heard and saying, now we just need digital IDs. Nobody needs a wallet anymore. We do everything online anyway, right? And everyone goes, yeah, I guess so. Okay, well, now we can get rid of this. Now we could be on the internet. And nobody realizes who controls the internet. Nobody realizes what ultimately the internet of bodies is about, right? It's about connecting you to the internet. They don't grasp that yet, but they don't realize that they're already conditioned into that with all this stuff you see where people are posting their thoughts online, right? People on Facebook are like, went to the store, ran into somebody, or there's just something they're thinking, right? Been thinking about mom a lot. They use the internet like it's their mind. They're uploading their consciousness already. That's ultimately what they'll end up doing, but they're already doing it. So when they hear people like us talk about this, they don't grasp it. They're just like, oh, I'm just uploading my thoughts. They don't think it's weird or strange because everybody else is doing it. They're getting conditioned into this, which ultimately I believe is the mark of the beast. So you can take a story like this, which seems ridiculous, right? But they're not wasting their news hours. They're not wasting their time because they're like, this will get views. A woman scammed. I mean, how did the news station even find out about it? Somebody called them? Like, hey, my sister-in-law thinks that Keanu Reeves is dating her. Can you take the time to come and cover this on the news so other people don't get... Oh, okay. And it's happening in every affiliate, as I showed you, around the country at the same exact time. At the same time, right? Which is really how Sinclair Broadcasting works. It's the same script. They're just giving you different stories with different actors in different states. And every single affiliate is airing this, right? They're wasting their valuable time to air this story because they care so much about this woman. No, they're airing it so that you know about it. You're like, well, that's weird. And if you're out there and you're single, or you're out there and you talk online, you're like, oh, I better be careful. Maybe who I'm talking to isn't a real person. Maybe it's a scam, right? And then they start saying, well, we can prevent this from being a scam. It's a digital ID. And then they start planting the seeds of this. And by 2030, the notion of everything I'm saying now is in the rearview mirror because people go, they'll tell me I'm crazy today. And then when it happens, they'll still tell me I'm crazy, right? Just like the outbreak. They told me I was crazy in 2016 and 17 and 18 and 19. And then the beginning of 2020 when I talked about it. Then when it all happened, I thought to myself, wow, these people are going to come and great. At least they'll wake up and we have more people awake. I'm not looking for people to kiss my rear end and tell me I was right. I'm looking to wake people up because that's the only way we could stop this from going forward. But what happened was the same people who were duped then just came, they saw what happened and they said, no, you weren't right about that. This was a real this was a real that. And they continue to believe it. Again, because they become narcissists because of the conditioning of social media and what it's done to people, right? They're uploading their conscious. They're speaking out. I've always joked about how these people tweet. You ever see these people tweet out their thoughts about everything that's going on in the world? And you look and it's like, yeah, they have like 5 followers. It's going to nobody, right? But they're so narcissistic. They don't even realize that nobody cares. Nobody's listening. And they're posting their thoughts out there. That is ultimately uploading their consciousness to the internet without them realizing it. So these people are never going to realize it when it happens. But I'm hoping people will listen to my channel, and I know it's not many anymore. And it's not many anymore because of the fact, it's not because people were like, you know what, I don't like this guy anymore. I don't want to listen to this guy, right? We've seen people like Boogeyman or Boogie something, the big YouTubers, gamers, right? I've seen stories trending on YouTube of these people who are big YouTubers, and then they lose their following because some scam happens where they find, oh, this guy wasn't really believing any of the stuff he said, or this guy was secretly in the closet, or whatever the story. He scammed his followers out of money. They lose all their followers, right? Okay? The reason people don't listen anymore is because they're removing people from this channel. And I'm not saying, well, they're taking my subs away. We all know what's happened to my channels, and if you don't know and you're new, there isn't a person in the history of YouTube who has had more channels with the amount of subs that I've had. And people out there are like, you must be a government. Someone told me yesterday, like, you must be a government agent. How do you have a channel again? Oh, I don't know. How do I have a channel? How do I have a channel again? Well, let me just try to say it so the algorithm doesn't realize it. You need a phone number. You need an ID every time you make a channel. Well, you better know a lot of people, or you better give a lot of people $20 to do that for you. And there's a lot of people who are willing to do that for $20 because they don't really care. Because $20 to take a picture of themselves? Well, we all might look at it and say, oh, I don't want my ID, you know. So you can constantly make them if you do that, right? And then on top of that, what else? You're talking about 80 plus channels that have had over, the majority of them have had, we've talking 550,000, 300,000, 100, because people kept finding the channel. They would just take it away in the beginning and then you make a new one, right? But then it got to the point I had to change the name. So then people couldn't find it. They don't want you to have this information because they don't want you to critically think. I am not patting myself on the back. I'm not sitting here saying, look, I told you so. I'm not sitting here saying I'm smarter than anyone else. I see this stuff and discern this stuff. And I'm correct about these types of things because the news is manufactured. So every story you see, ask yourself ultimately what they're trying to get you convinced into doing. This story about Keanu Reeves, about romance scammers, isn't to protect you because the government cares that people out there are ripping you off. The government rips us off every day. They take our tax money and they give it away. They take our tax money and give it to themselves, okay? So they don't care, so we can check that off. They don't care because old women are getting their hearts broken and sending out $100 gift cards to strangers. Ultimately, what they want is total control over the entire population. And if the entire population is dependent on the internet, dependent on buying on the internet, communicating on the internet, can't have a job without an email and all these other things, they know that ultimately you'll have to get a digital ID. And once you have a digital ID, and once you're connected to the internet of bodies, there's no escape because ultimately you're connected. It's in you. You're a part of this. You're uploading your consciousness, but you're also giving up your free will. Literally, because you're changing what you are. You're changing what you are, as Klaus Schwab said, right? You're changing your genetic code. Thus, you're going to be convinced and duped into this, or the majority of people, not you, my listeners on this channel, but people are going to be convinced in this without even realizing it. So they don't want you thinking this way. They want you to think that the news organically occurs. And every time you take a step back and go, why are they telling me this? Why are they doing this? Why is this out there? And you think about it from a business perspective of the government, right? The government, the United States corporation. They don't waste their time here putting these stories out because they care about us. Every story ultimately has an end game to it, right? Every story they tell us, and I break every one of those down. And once you start thinking like that, then you become a threat to the government because you're not believing in the propaganda, or you're understanding what the purpose of the story is ultimately to get you and manipulate you into. And that's why they've always cut my audiences off. But I will continue to fight, and I hope you will continue to stand by my side and fight with me. Share this video with people. Get them to start critically thinking. I get it that a lot of people that you know will see this and they'll be like, he's out of his mind. I've heard it a million times. And every time I've been right about these things, I haven't heard that same person come to me and be like, oh, you're right. But I've seen them feel like complete idiots and then try to sidestep it and be like, maybe. And it's ultimately on them because they're the ones who are preventing themselves from waking up because of their pride, their ego, their narcissism. And they need to put it all down and realize there's a group of people out there who are manipulating not just all of them, but all of us. And if we could all see this and decipher it, we could break free from this mind control, from this hypnosis, from this spell. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.